Guys for coming to the Barberton Public Library. This afternoon we are going to present a program from the Ohio Night Stalkers in search of Bigfoot. So, guys, introduce yourself and start the program. Thank you for all attending.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you to Dia Thomas and the staff for having us out, helping us out, get all this stuff set up. We appreciate it. We appreciate you all coming out. You know, we know gas prices are high, but, you know, Bigfoot is important. And hello to all you people at home. You might be comfortable eating your own snacks, but guess what? We're giving away free prizes and you get none. Zero, zip. Anyway, the Ohio Night Stalkers. And we'll get going right here.
Night is not something to endure until dawn. It is an element like wind or fire. Darkness is its own kingdom. It moves to its own laws, and many living things dwell in it.
Can you take some of the lights down a little bit? So we creep some people out? We're used to this. And Cliff will kind of tell you about this.
Night stalkers, stalking the night, but not in a creepy way.
Not in a creepy way. This is our good friend Bob Gimlin. You know him? Patterson Gimlin film. He's got a little short introduction for us.
Pay attention to these Ohio Night Stalkers. Hey, they're doing a great job, and they're just doing a great job out there, and they're presenting a lot of evidence that we really need in this field. And so pay attention to the Ohio Night Stalkers. They're doing a great job.
Bob is 90 years young right now. Okay, this is, how many of you people in here seen us on Tearing the Woods or These Woods Are Haunted? That program, okay?
Yeah, I think so.
We always, if not, I gotta go home and watch it, but we saved the best for last. We got some of our most incredible audio from that night, and that's what we saved for the last. Those audio clips, since that show was been on the air and everything, those clips have been analyzed by a man named David Ellis, who is a professional sound analyst out of Washington State, and he said that we recorded known animal in North America, and that one of those recordings actually pegged higher than a baboon on the spectrograph. Now, minding that, wow, this happened a couple years ago. Probably 5, maybe 10 miles at the most from that location from 2014, different area, and they lit us up with rocks. What we had done is we went into this area, and we usually set in the dark. I know on the TV show they showed us with flashlights. That we do not do that. Set up with a red light, and then we go totally dark. Anyway, we're here at this location for about a good 45 minutes or so, talking normal voice. Nothing happened, and then one of our colleagues has a kick butts sound call blaster things. Anyway, we call blasted a wolf howling. Nothing happened, just to break up the monotony. Waited a few minutes and we call blasted wolves howling. And that caused something to happen. Less than 10 minutes later, this first audio, kind of hard to hear and it gets louder. This thing where we were parked and set up at, there was a little bit of a landing and then a straight drop. Then there was a high ridge going up over here and kind of a valley and a ridge behind us. And this thing actually was up on the ridge, but actually moved closer back towards us and down. And, you know, deer don't do that. In one of the other lectures, someone said that's an owl. Could be, we don't think so, because maybe 20 minutes after this happened, the rocks started flying, but here we go. I think it sounds like a gibbon monkey, a young one. That went on for a while, then it quit. Mind you, we're sitting there in the dark. What I think happened that night is I think the real audio of wolves howling, I think scared one of their young ones. That was it in distress. And then not even 20 minutes later, the adults showed up. They didn't find wolves or coyotes there. They found us. And this first rock you're going to hear actually hit. We have a 22-inch parabolic microphone. Had it set up on top of my Jeep. It actually hit the parabolic dish, scared it across the roof of my Jeep and down through the moonroof that I had open.
Whoa. Send it a message.
And here's the reaction. That's the same area. It's during the daytime. We put some apples out to sort of say, hey, we're your friend.
Good idea.
We heard it. It sounded like it hit up here, didn't it? See, I thought it went through the hole. It's hot, something.
You want to bet?
What?
It's in here in the floorboard.
Are you serious?
I'm not.
Holy shit!
Can't take him anywhere. And then, a little bit later,
I'll turn it up. Wait, is this now Ohio?
yes, it is. Adams County, Ohio.
Adams County.
Adams County, Ohio, close to Shawnee State Forest.
Oh, yeah, I heard you live there.
And then this happened. It is Kia. There's me going, come on, man. Now, we had one more thing happen that night before that we got out of there. We don't have it recorded, of course, because we had packed up and we're getting ready to leave. I'm actually in front of his vehicle. He's still putting stuff away, so I don't really know why they didn't throw it at him. My son is in the car. Cody, team member, is with us. We're sitting there. My moonroof's still open. Now, Skeptic's going to say you're full of you know what, but this really happened. Swear to God. We're sitting there ready to leave, and I'm looking down at my phone because some of our friends are texting like, hey, what's going on? What's going on? And I'm trying to tell them what had happened that night. And while I'm sitting there messing with my phone because there's hardly any signal, all of a sudden there's this explosion inside my Jeep. And what had happened is they had scooped up a rock that had like a dirt ball around it. So when this thing came through the roof, and I'm not saying it did it on purpose like it's Michael Jordan, I'm just saying it threw, and luck of whatever, it came through, it hit the dash, it damaged my dash. When the thing exploded, I'm looking down, I'm thinking, oh my God, my windshield's gone. So I kind of wait for the stuff to quit falling, and I look up and I'm like, hey, my windshield's still there. And I look over at my son and Cody with dirt and the rocks in the floorboard again. So we got 2 rocks out of that night. But we got out of there, but I got out of the car, I was kind of a little mad, and I yelled, we're effing leaving. He's still out of his car. He thought I was yelling at him because he wouldn't get ready fast enough. And I'm like, no, they just threw a rock came in. But that was rock night 1. And of course, in a couple of weeks, we're going back because, we're not too bright. This is rock night 2, and they were even madder this night, and we didn't even have to call blast. We basically went to this location, sat up, started talking, normal voice in the dark, and it wasn't even, 15 minutes, and they started bombarding us.
Wow.
There's the actual road. Doesn't it look beautiful?
Mm-hmm.
So the coyotes up here, then in the background.
The coyotes that did that.
These areas always look better in the daytime. This next rock landed between me and his wife Pam.
Oh, hit by me.
Okay.
Did you hit my leg?
One, why over here by me and Mike? I mean, close.
Cody or Jeff the one that threw the rock back in Adam?
Cody.
Yeah, Cody threw the
Oh,
rock
wow.
back into the woods, and then this happened. You'll hear it hit. It's a windshield really loud, damaged his vehicle, and while we're talking back and forth, it's hard to hear. I'll try to raise my hand, but there's a moment when you hear that's another rock they threw that went like in between all of us. But it didn't hit us in the noggin or anything, so that was good.
Goodness.
That wasn't me. That hit my heel. Turn the light off. I broke my neck on this chair laying out here. Okay. Yep. Did you say it? Big rock. You hear that? What? There's more coming.
I'm gonna try to play that over again. It's kind of jumped over it. The last rock that hit, we kind of were like sitting there, nothing was going on, kind of started dozing off. And Angie was actually asleep and it hit. She's the one kind of hyperventilating. That's her on the left. Okay, that was all of Rock Night 2. Now, since we've been there since this, we were just there a couple weeks ago.
Just this past weekend.
Yeah, past weekend. And we had more rock action. We haven't went through the audio yet, but they are still there and they are still not happy. And now it's time for Mike Feltner to tell you how he got into all this.
Give him a round of applause, please.
Yeah.
So we'll touch on how we kind of got started. I have been a Bigfoot researcher. This will be my 24th year being a cryptozoologist. I'm almost hitting 25. I've been doing this a long time. This book is very, very good. My aunt and uncle lived in the upper part of Michigan. They lived past Hillsdale. My aunt had this book. In the back of it, I would read cases of Bigfoot stories in Ohio, Michigan, where they lived. And my uncle was an avid game hunter. He actually would hunt a couple times with Ted Nugent. And so he would take me and my dad out, and I started learning about animal sounds, and I love nature. But I was curious about Bigfoot. Never thought I'd be a researcher. But if you want to pick that book up, maybe the library has it. That's a great book. This is my mentor. Some of you probably know this man. This is Don Keating. He started the Ohio Bigfoot Conference in 1989. He started being a researcher in 85. I met him in 1995, took me under my wing, showed me everything I knew. Then everybody knows where this place is at. So, of course, State Farm, it's not too far from here. I actually was with a researcher from Pennsylvania. Locks happened back a long time ago in 2005, 6, 7. So I started doing this a long time. Up here, you'll see pictures of stuff. This is from Coshocton County. 2008, I actually found my first track discoveries. This is Miami County. This is Mike's area. And later, you'll see this up here too. This is Adams County, the area we go. So I've been doing this a long time before I met this guy. Next slide there, Mike. So one thing I love, if you guys are like into the Finding Bigfoot expedition, go back and do your research of old times. This stuff's been going on since the 1800s, probably before that. This is a story of a gorilla in Ohio. Gallus Police, if you guys know where that is, kind of close to the Mothman area, is excited over a wild man who's reported to haunt the woods near that city. He goes naked, it's covered with hair, gigantic in height, and big eyes. This story is actually on the Monster Quest episode of Ohio Grassman. I always have a few notes I've done from newspaper clippings. And this is kind of significant of the area we go. This is from the Cleveland Plain Dealer, May 27, 1897. Charles Lukens and Bob Forner of West Union, Ohio, that's Adams County, saw a wild man described as a gorilla-like near Rome. The two men were cutting timber when they claimed to have struggled with an 8-foot-tall creature in a rocky area by the Ohio River. This is the Moretta Register, June 7th, 1897. The wild man who created so much terror several weeks ago has been seen again. women and children around Rome, West Union, are afraid to come out of their house because people are seeing this. And this is from William Willoughby's book. This is a real book from the 1800s, A Buckeye Boyhood. The author tells a tale of growing up in Ohio and describes seeing a gorilla-like creature. These are more stories. This is from the 1930s, kind of like Mike was talking about Shawnee area where we go. That's 63,000 acres. In the early 1930s, a 10-year-old boy, George Johnson of Portsmouth, Ohio, lived near Shawnee, looked out his window, and what he described was an overgrown gorilla walking upright on two legs. So there is stories all the way back from the 1800s. I have newspaper clippings from the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. So these things have been here for a long time, and people have seen these things. There's some of the stuff, the newspaper stuff. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, before we go into my story, we're gonna raffle some stuff off. I
Awesome.
need the cup, please. You people
Yeah.
at home don't get to win anything. This is one of the last ones.
9045559.
Let that cat out of the bag.
4558 4559.
We got two prizes. Yeah, like we do, we like to just thank everybody for coming here. And this is the new, if you guys ever noticed, the Dr. Squawk. This is soap, Bigfoot soap. Noah?
If you don't win, it's her fault. Boy, I'm gonna have to put my eyeballs on to see this. I had to do the bifocals this year. As in the suspense, sorry about that. Okay, last four numbers, 4556.
We're too away.
4556?
Whoever came in before us.
4556.
Ah! Give them that soap there, Noah.
Soap winner.
Here you go. This is a good documentary movie, kind of, it's called Pursuit of a Legend.
That sounds awesome.
All right. Okay, last four are 4550 for you old timers, 4550.
Oh,
Nice.
Give that to that man right here. This is a new book from Ball Buckner, since we are in library.
Wow,
Bigfoot
another one.
books. This is Bigfoot, UFOs, and the paranormal.
You can just look it up.
Now it's your turn to get in trouble.
Bigfoot UFO.
Oh,
It's like a green and blue and black cover.
you grabbed one once, we threw somebody's prize back in there.
Ooh.
It's ball big time. 4577.
That girl right there. All right, we'll do more prizes later.
More prizes later. Oh my gosh, the shirts. Hopefully these shirts.
All right, my name's Mike Miller. I've been doing this quite as long as Mike. Got my start because of, I watched all the shows and stuff when I was younger, and I thought, if Bigfoot's real, there's no way it's in Ohio, because watching Channel 7 News, I was living near Dayton at the time. Channel 7 News had a story about a Bigfoot sighting in Ohio, which I thought was ridiculous. I thought Ohio just doesn't have enough woods for something like that. So I thought they're probably drunk, stoned, probably a deer, but kind of got me interested. So I'm up late one night and I decide to get online, start looking up about Bigfoot in Ohio. And I stumbled into the BFRO website. So I thought, okay, I'll check this out. So I click on it, and I think there's only going to be a story or two, but when I click on Ohio, it drops down to reports by county. I about fell out of my chair. So I'm like, didn't get a lot of sleep that night, so I'm going through this, and I'm reading the stories, and a lot of them made me laugh. A lot of them I thought, you're crazy, you're smoking dope, whatever, it's a deer, it's a coyote, whatever. But a couple stories kind of hit me, kind of jolted me. And one of those was because growing up, we had a German Shepherd. So I'm partial to him. She lived 17 years. And this guy said he didn't know what was in his backyard, but his 5-year-old male German Shepherd came through the glass door on the front there to get back in the house, ran to the furthest point away in the house, curled up and peed itself. And those dogs do not do that. So that got my attention. So I keep strolling through stories and stuff and read a few more, which eventually led me to someone that had a website, and they're sending me blurry pictures. I'm like, come on. And started kind of hanging out with these people. I call them the day stalkers because they wouldn't go out at night. But George Taylor took me out and he showed me, we would hike off the trail. Don't do that, kids. Stay on the trail. And he would show me the difference between storm damage and not storm damage. Tree snaps, little huts and all that stuff they make. There's pictures of them up over here. And all that eventually led me to running into this guy because of a mutual friend. So they invited me on a night hike. And I thought, okay, yeah, I've never done that. Scratch it off the bucket list. So we go on a night hike. And we go, does anyone know where East Fork State Park is by chance? And out toward Batavia, out that way? Okay, well, we go out there. And $50 fine for being late. Okay, but anyway, we go out there. It's raining. It's October, which seems to be like a special month for Bigfoot because that's when the stuff in 2014 happened in October. Same kind of night, drizzly, rainy, not too warm, and we hike back in there about maybe a couple miles. And I'm kind of along for the ride at the point because I'm still on the fence with all this stuff. And Mike and Mark do some, they do wood knocks, they do howls. I don't hear nothing. Nothing's happening. We stay a couple hours. A guy named Mark says, hey, this is go, nothing's happening. And I'm like thinking, hey, this is great. I went on a night hike. Looks like I'm going to survive it. All good. And in about 2 minutes into that walk out of there is where my life changed with this. Because as we're heading out, here comes a rock, my first one ever, my first rock. And this thing is big. I'm going to guess between bigger than a softball, not as big as a bowling ball, but it's coming even though we have no light on it, it's pitch dark. As it's in flight, it is over our heads, hitting tree branches and snapping them. Not bouncing off of them, snapping. It hit a tree right over by me, loud crash, hits the ground and rolls end over end. I can hear it. And I'm like, wow. And I'm petrified actually. And I'm thinking, I'm not going to get out of here tonight. I'm not going to see my son back here grow up. And I got really worried because I'm in the back of the line. And any of you that have seen horror movies, you know what happens to the dude in the back of the line.
Right.
That's me. So we had another half hour, 40 minutes to walk out of there. About halfway through that, there's like a pinch point on this trail. I thought, oh my God, that's an ambush point. Sure enough, we got close to that. Here comes another rock from a different direction. Same thing, we're ducking down, it's sailing over our heads. And from that point on, I said the Lord's Prayer under my breath from that moment until we got to the road, if you want to call it that, where the trail comes back out. And I literally knelt down and kissed the ground because I was happy to be out of the woods. And I kind of retired. And but I didn't retire. I had like a year to think about it. I went through some trouble at home, and I had time to think, and I thought, I'm not done with this. There's something there. People at work, I work at UPS, and they make fun of me. Oh, I had somebody in the woods. I'm like, people are just on hand in the woods at 2 or